full-time employees a monthly salary, $64,500.
A month?
A month, likely rising to $90,000 after 2 years.
Yeah, I'm done with this podcast.
You're listening to the Help Me with HIPAA podcast, where HIPAA and humor collide to make learning fun. Your delightful hosts are Donna Grindle and David Sims. Relax, HIPAA help is on the way.
Hello, this is Rich Hervig with Brightside IT out of Atlanta, Georgia, and you're listening to the Help Me with HIPAA podcast.
Thank you for that listener intro, Donna. I'm loving these listener intros. What about you?
Well, you love it because it was your idea.
Well, that's part of it.
But I do like them.
Yeah, it is. So the ones we have right now are the ones we've collected from the boot camp attendees. But if you're a listener and you want to be on our listener intro, so in other words, you will be stating the name of your company, where you're at, and you're listening to the Help Me with HIPAA podcast. If you want to do that, just go on over to helpmewithhipaa.com podcast and scroll down to you see the start recording button, and you can record it right there. So use the same format everybody else is. Mention your name, what business you're with, and where you're from, and that you're listening to the Help Me with HIPAA podcast. And we might put it at the front of our future podcast. Depending on what you say. But there's a good chance we'll use it. I mean, I'm liking them. They sound great.
Yeah.
So Donna is, for those of you who listened last week, and Donna is still recovering from all kind of mess. And, and now this week I'm recovering from a chest cold. So, we both sound like Barry White today. We're going to make it through it.
Well, hey baby, how you doing?
But before we get into our normal Where You Gonna Be's, today we're going to be talking about the National Data Privacy Day, which is coming up January 28th. And we're going to talk about some other privacy issues that we have noticed in the news lately and things going on. So it's going to be some pretty interesting stuff. So stay tuned.
Mm-hmm.
So, all right, Donna, so where are you going to be here coming up shortly?
Well, I'm putting together this really cool workshop for the OMS Administrators National Conference in Savannah. So we're going to do a 4-hour, like a half-day cybersecurity planning workshop for those going to the conference. And it's really cool. I'm really excited about how it's coming together. And that is April 7th
through 10th.
7th through the 10th.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. In Savannah. So everybody's coming to Savannah. Thank you very much. And we're looking forward to doing that little bit and hanging out with those folks. We're making some plans to do some other stuff. I'm working with 3 other groups right now trying to get a date that works for both of us. So
cool.
But most importantly,
we
need to remind you that the early bird pricing is ending soon.
Yeah, for the HIPAA boot camp. So boot camp, first boot camp of 2019 is going to be March 20, 21, and 22. 3 days of nothing but Donna and David making you do push-ups, sit-ups, running. You're getting it. No, it's not quite that bad, but you might think so after day one.
Yeah, we turn the fire hose on with HIPAA. So for all those people that will tell you they know everything about HIPAA because they worked at the hospital for 30 years.
And can't spell it right.
They can't spell it right. Maybe you need to send them. But, it is designed for those who want to have a very deep overview of all of the HIPAA things to worry about. And, we don't play. And there's tons of information at thehipaabootcamp.com.
Mm-hmm.
You can learn all about it. There's a couple of audio recordings of us explaining how it all works, as well as many audio recordings from those who have been through the 2-day session and have asked us to extend it to a 3. So tons of information. Go to thehipaabootcamp.com. Learn more. There's also a May session, so you can sign up for both right now. Early bird for both of them. Pricing is on the website.
Cool.
Have at it.
Yeah, get in there.
And if you're an alumni, give us a call. We've got some special deals for you. If you want to come try the 3-day thing, we can hook you up.
Cool. And if you have an IT company you're dealing with, you might want to recommend they go. Just saying.
Yeah. There's more and more we hear and learn. Yeah. So far, every IT vendor that has come really goes away. Even the ones who say, I want this person to learn the deep dive, but I think we got it covered. They go back and say, look, here's a list of things we need to do.
Yeah.
And so it's really some good stuff, and we look forward to seeing you there. So join us.
Absolutely. It's all right. All right. You have a message from Beth, right?
Yeah. Speaking of boot camp attendees, Beth, who's from Indiana, and she sends us these emails. They're all great. We appreciate them. But I had to point out to David that she said, also, I've been meaning to say, in regards to the discussion about a HIPAA boot camp cruise discussed in an earlier podcast, my husband is a travel agent. We could make it happen. So David and I are interested if y'all want to go on a boot camp cruise. Mm-hmm. Not a booze cruise, but but we could certainly make something happen. We're interested. Y'all just have to make it worth our while to show up, right, David?
Yeah. I mean, it's. What better way to get out of the office and get some training, right?
It's for work.
Yeah, and the best part about it is the cell phones don't have a signal in most of the way.
I know. You're really shut down.
Yep.
So it's internet connectivity, though. So.
Yeah, but if you're interested in that, let us know. I mean, it's nothing that we can't make happen.
And if you're interested in a fall thing, maybe like in Vegas, let us know, because we're trying to decide what we're going to do in the fall, if we're going to do another one here or we're going to take the show on the road. So if you think you can help get enough people to show up in an area such as Vegas or another area on the West Coast, let us know.
Half HIPAA will travel.
All right, let's get down to business.
All right, let's talk about some privacy.
Well, we got the Data Privacy Day is January 28th, so I want to make sure we cover that. But there's also just this long list of like news stories that were coming at me that I felt like we needed to just touch on some of them so that people could be aware. So it's news you need.
Yeah. So when we talk about you need to have security awareness training, today's going to be one of those days.
Yeah, this is something to be aware of.
Yeah, it is. So the first one we have up is a pretty nasty ransomware version that's going around. And so ransomware is not anything new anymore. Unfortunately, what happens is people hear about it and they're, oh, yeah, whatever, ransomware. We know all about that. But it is always changing. The threat landscape in cybersecurity is always changing. And this is yet another wave of a ransomware attack called MongoLock that is doing some nasty stuff.
Yes, above and beyond what ransomware has done in the past. This one, as soon as it encrypts everything, it deletes the files. And then if it finds backup drives, which we all have talked about repeatedly, that it looks for backup drives, most ransomware does, it actually formats the backup drives.
Ooh.
I mean, boom, wipe it clean. So they nuke and pay for you. But I bring this up for multiple reasons. Is one, you need to make sure that you understand this ransomware stuff is not static. You know, they constantly change the game because they're making billions, literally billions of dollars in cyber criminal activity. And this whole idea that you can continue doing what you've always done and not staying in front of this is just means you're going to get run over.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. But I also saw a couple of, those predictions by cyber experts for 2019. And a couple of people mentioned that they are convinced that the next waves of ransomware will actually exfiltrate the data because they feel that they can make more money that way. And we know based on, the Dark Overlord, which we'll talk to about in a minute, that once that data is exfiltrated, now you have to notify everybody. You have no choice. So staying in front of this ransomware stuff and keeping it from hitting your systems is what you absolutely have to do.
Yeah. And from a technology standpoint, this is where we have to come in and say, look, it's more than just having antivirus anymore. I mean, antivirus is just your base level, if I had to compare it to some of the things we do in the boot camp where we talk about addressable, it would be kind of the same thing as saying, look, this is your minimum. Like antivirus is like you're walking out the door and you have your underwear on. Okay. It's not great. And you probably shouldn't go anywhere like that, but at least you're covered somewhat. And that's what antivirus is these days. You're covered somewhat, but I'd be careful. Still get you in trouble.
Yeah. It's like the kid that comes out in his Superman underwear. Mm-hmm. And a cape and a mask and some boots ready to go to the store.
Yeah, exactly. So don't think
you got to do a risk assessment right there real quick.
Yeah, really. Yeah. So just be aware. I mean, if you're one of these people that, hey, I've got antivirus and it was rated high or blah, 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 it is so much more complicated than that nowadays. You have to have multiple layers of protection and multiple things that are doing different types of jobs even, to make sure you have some protection for these things.
And that is a perfect segue into the next news piece, which is there's a new burst coming from, it's a malware spewing kind of service. Well, what else you going to call it? It spews forth malware. But the SANS folks are reporting that emoted infections and follow-up malware. So there's extra layers that are coming behind this. But this particular campaign that was coming from spam, mouse spam, because,
you got to have some name for it, right?
Yeah, right. This had kind of gotten quiet in December. So it's like it was doing a lot of stuff, and then it went quiet right before Christmas. I guess they took the holidays off.
That's nice.
Yeah, Anyway, they of all of a sudden started spewing out like crazy again, and becoming, as they say, by far the most active. And they are getting everyday vectors for infections from this emotet. And it distributes, this thing is nasty because it distributes other malware when you get infected with it. Mm-hmm. So you get infected with it, and then it goes now, it now has the ability to load other malware. So I'm not saying, I'm just saying, if you think that this stuff is, you got this covered and you haven't done a review anytime in the last 6 months of what it is you're protected from and what's going on out there, this is news you need. That's why we're bringing it up. So not only is the ransomware changing and evolving, but the way that it's being distributed through email is also evolving. And guess what? It involves sending people infected Microsoft Office.
Yeah.
Microsoft Office, Word docs.
That's what, most people are using that. So, if you're going to,
it's the number one way to spread malware.
Yeah. You're going to attack something that, most people are likely to have. And, another thing to consider too, is if you're putting an advertisement out there, maybe you have a job opening. If I'm a hacker or attacker and I want to try to get into your network, then all I need to do is just send you an email saying, here's my resume for the job opening. And the link you're going to click on is not my resume. It's going to load malware on your system. Mm-hmm. I mean, you're going to click on it. Nothing's going to happen. At least you're not going to see anything happen. You're going to click on it a couple times. You're going to be like, whatever. And you're just going to delete it. Well, by that time, I'm already in your system. I'm in your network.
Oh, yeah.
So, you have to be very, very, very diligent.
Yeah. HR responses is one of the top ways that malware is also distributed because of people sending their resumes in a Word document. I personally would ask for them in a PDF or
online,
or an online version, and then not use Adobe to read them.
Yeah.
But anyway, In other news, another interesting story comes out about a VoIP provider,
Oh, yeah.
voice over IP, which is the way most people do their phones now.
Mhm.
And for years, we've had people telling us that the phone systems don't have to worry about HIPAA, which is really not true if patients are leaving voicemails on these VoIP systems.
Mm-hmm.
So in the news, it came out that this particular what's the name of the company?
VoIPO.
VoIPO. VoIPO is a California provider. They're based in California, but if you use VoIPO, you might want to look into them because they say that that they discovered an open Elasticsearch database.
Yeah.
Yeah. But basically, what it said is 4 years worth of data on the customers with call logs and messages and internal credentials, so on and so forth, were publicly available without any authentication.
Nice.
Yeah. So 6.7 million call logs dating back to July 2017, 6 million SMS MMS logs dating back to December 2015, and 1 million logs that had the API key for accessing internal systems.
Ooh, that's not good.
Right. So for all of you who haven't really talked about your phone system, folks, time to do a little bit of a risk analysis on what they might be doing to you.
Yeah. Another thing to consider too is, VoIPO, like most of these companies, they have a reseller program. So if your IT company or somebody else is coming in and saying, we can set you up with voice over IP, you might be saying to yourself, well, I don't use VoIPO, but you might be using VoIPO.
Exactly.
Or some of these other ones. And I'm not saying, no, this is not a breach. We're not talking about VoIPO having a breach. We're talking about that they found this information out there and open. So they could have had a breach, could not have had a breach. But that's not the point. The point is making sure you vet your vendors, figure out where your liabilities and responsibilities are. And if something should come up, at least you do know where that data is and who's supposed to be protecting it.
Yes.
Yes.
That's called doing a risk analysis.
That you can use that. That's a short version of what I said.
But it does go back to, vet your vendors. If they, particularly IT companies, we're telling you, you need to stop just assuming with your IT companies.
Yeah. I mean,
if you're working with an IT company, make sure they listen to Help Me with HIPAA. How about that?
Yeah. Well, I guess
At least
the warning I would have out there is, since I am an IT vendor, I run an IT company, I am in IT forums all the time, and I can tell you, lots of people out there have tons of misinformation, and they might be meaning well, but the IT community as a whole has a lot of learning to do to address compliance.
And we all know that IT people assume they know everything.
They're all as bad as doctors.
All right. But anyway, moving on to more of the same.
Mm-hmm.
All web hosting is not the same. And the same thing goes here. You may not be thinking that you're hosting anything that matters on your website. But let me tell you something. Your website gets infected and starts spewing malware out to anybody that visits it.
Mm-hmm.
You think that's not going to mess with your reputation? Do you think that's going to make sure people want to go get information at your website? Also, what if your website is hijacked and then used to attack other websites? So website security matters even if you're not collecting information on there. However, we often find that people are collecting information when they shouldn't, and we beg them to take it down immediately. And in more than one occasion, when we go in and do our assessments, we find that clients are collecting information on their webpage that they didn't realize they needed to secure, and it wasn't secured in any way.
Mm-hmm.
So, but the big news here was 5 popular hosting services. And all of these, people can be your web provider and use these hosting services, and it's the same thing as the VoIP. They're reselling these.
Yeah.
So Bluehost, DreamHost, HostGator, iPage, and OVH.
Right.
So, and what was this one? What'd they find on this one? You got this one was roughly a dozen serious security vulnerabilities.
Mm-hmm.
So that amounts to roughly 7 million domains across those 5 hosting providers that have some version. I love that, Bluehost has the most apparently.
Well, yeah, what's because Bluehost is owned by a parent company called Endurance, which also owns HostGator and iPage, which I'm still unsure why a company has 3 different hosting names. I don't know, but yeah, and this goes back to the exact same thing we're talking about with VoIP. If you're paying an IT company or a marketing company or whatever to host your website, chances are they're hosting that site on one of these type of platforms. May not be these, but they're hosting it somewhere else. They probably don't host it on their own servers. And so you need to understand that, again, where's that stuff being hosted? And in that way, if something comes up,
Yeah. So, and I found this quote interesting. The security researcher that had gone through this, and, on average, at least one vulnerability. But anyway, the quote from the researcher is, they mostly focus on protecting the wrong assets, but most of them have medium security standards for their user profile portals and data exfiltration vulnerability classes. Most of their protections are easily bypassable using lesser known tricks. So keep in mind when you're trusting somebody to, they take care of everything, we just pay them a monthly fee. There's a lot you should be asking.
Yep.
Because particularly with websites, tons of people make pretty websites that are totally not secure.
Oh yeah. And we're talking about the hosting side, not even the site itself, which also has to be secure.
Right. Yeah. There's layers. This is the base layer is not secure. So everything built on top of it, if it's not secure, it only makes things worse.
Right.
So you need to do a risk analysis on how your website's being managed.
Mm-hmm.
And finally, if you got some mad cyber skills, there's some ads out there.
Yep.
During the government shutdown, we could be losing some cybersecurity people. But get this now. We keep trying to tell you that the cybercrime is its own economy.
Yep, it is.
And they have job ads running out there.
Yeah.
Jobs. They advertise for hacking as a service jobs. And the Dark Overlord even posted one that says, do you want to get rich? Come work for us.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So when you see what some of these ads are, network administration programmer must have at least 10 years experience working with one of these fields, not a combination. This is not negotiable.
Yeah. So for all you people out there that's like, I don't understand it. Why all these hackers just go get a job? Well, here you go.
Yeah. Here you go. It must have at least 5 years experience working in a team-based cooperative environment. We don't want freelancers. And must have strong work ethic and willingness to work full-time.
Strong work ethic. That's funny.
I know. With a winning attitude. Life's too short not to be rich. Bring innovative approaches to operations. Think out of the box regularly. Must have a very good ability to document your workflow and formulate and articulate reports on your duties.
Dude, they're doing more than the rest of us.
I know. And this is, you get a monthly salary. Okay, full-time employees, a monthly salary, $64,500
a month,
likely rising to $90,000 after 2 years.
Yeah, I'm done with this podcast.
And if you're multilingual, you can add 5%.
Wow.
For every additional language you get. Chinese, Arabic, German, they're being especially desirable. But must have a winning attitude.
Nothing in there about integrity, I guess.
Strong work ethics.
There you go. So what's interesting is some of the jobs. The other thing that's really interesting is the pricing. His pricing is very reasonable. So if I want to pay somebody to hack somebody's email, I can get that done for somewhere between $500 and $800.
Yeah.
Not bad. I could have somebody's cell phone hacked for between $300 and $600.
Mm-hmm.
I can have, let's see here. I can have a web server hacked for anywhere from, looks like $220 up to $3,000.
Yeah. Well, you can even get FUD, ransomware, and the decryptor. Now, FUD, fear, uncertainty, and doubt. So basically, it's your basic ransomware. You can distribute that for 1 month for $120.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, they have subscription fees. I thought it's crazy. Here's the one that's, I don't know, I kind of caught this as being the most interesting was you can pay them to change your school grades. How about that?
That's the most expensive.
Yeah. Somewhere between $1,200 and $3,750. They'll do that.
Yeah.
I wonder if they can go back and change mine.
Too late for that, buddy. Too late.
Like, what do you want to change it to? Anything would help. It doesn't matter.
Just higher.
Yeah, it can't be worse. Just change it.
You focused on grades, didn't you? Hey, I graduated with honors, of course.
It was an honor for me to graduate.
All right, so those are our news you can use. All of these items are reasons that you need to be paying attention. It is not getting better. Mm-mm. If you have survived so far without making changes, it's time to make changes.
Yeah.
You got to pay attention to this stuff. But now let's talk about Data Privacy Day. Unless you got something else you want to go down a rabbit hole on, we could.
No, let's talk about protecting your privates. Let's do it.
Okay. So this goes back, actually in 2014, Congress adopted, of course, a non-binding resolution supporting the designation of January 28th as National Data Privacy Day. So this comes out on the 25th, which is a Friday, and Monday is National Data Privacy Day. It's a big deal because it's not about HIPAA. Although it does talk about healthcare, it is specifically about everybody needs to understand the privacy of their data. Mm-hmm. And I thought there was an interesting bit in there. There's a lot of information that they distribute. And so I was going through all of the guides and the things that they suggest for you to use to celebrate National Data Privacy Day. And one of the things was some questions of what is the difference between security and privacy? And I thought it was really interesting, their response. Security refers to the ways we protect ourselves, our property, and our personal information. It is the first level of defense against unwanted intruders. Well, that's security. Mm-hmm. And as we know, that is not compliance.
Right.
And we also know that compliance is not security.
Yep.
But it's also not privacy. Privacy is our ability to control access to our personal information. That's it. Our ability to control access to our personal information. And if we start looking at it, that it's the patient's right to control access to their personal information. That's what we're talking about. So people that talk about how evil HIPAA is and all of this know that without it, there are very limited controls you can have in place across the country. It varies dramatically from state to state what you could do to control access to that personal information that's out there. Mm-hmm. So here's some ideas that they bring up of what you need to do to improve. They're trying to promote the respect for privacy, safeguarding the data, and enabling trust. That's what it's all about. These are all things that we basically talk about all the time. We just didn't know it. That we were
we didn't know it.
We didn't know that we were so in sync with Data Privacy Day. But there's some stuff that I found, very helpful. They say create a culture of privacy in your organization. Mm-hmm. how many times do we say a culture of privacy and security, a culture of compliance, a culture of this? Do we actually say what that means?
Well, I know we've talked a lot about what it means to create a culture by saying things like it's not something you can do once a year. It's ongoing all the time. Every business has a culture. Every business has a culture.
Right. And what's part of your culture is directly related to how leadership responds to the tasks at hand, really and truly.
Yep.
And, there's another phrase that people use is privacy and security by design, meaning it's bolted into everything that you do.
We say security first.
Yeah. Well, you got to have privacy. Yeah. But again, privacy is about the individual. The security is about how we protect the individual.
Right.
And the difference is, when we're sitting down and we're talking about implementing something new in our business, and you do the same thing when you've got a client that wants to do something, then you say, well, what are we going to do about the security?
Right.
Does it have any security implications? Do we need to worry about the access to data that we're going to add here? Or is there going to be a temporary security problem? And we actually make decisions about whether we need to worry about privacy and security in everything we do every day. That is the culture of privacy and security, or privacy and security by design. You intend to include it in every single decision and discussion.
Yep. First.
Yeah. It's like a line item on your budget.
Yeah. Because oftentimes we get a call, hey, by the way, we put a new such and such in our environment 3 months ago.
Yeah.
So
that's like when we want to do our surveys and everybody's like, well, we know everybody's doing blah, 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 blah. Okay. Shadow IT. You ever heard of that? But the bottom line is what they're trying to promote is to say, look, you don't just include privacy and security when you say, okay, let's look at privacy and security today, and we'll look at it again in 2 or 3 months. You discuss privacy and security as part of your work every day. And that's what's different. But their guide also had some really cool little, their top 3 tips for transparency and trust, in building trust. And, I've mentioned for years a concern of a crisis of trust in healthcare. If we want to be able to better treat patients, they have to be able to trust us to put information out there that healthcare as a whole can keep private. So if you can't do that, then people will not tell their providers things that are very important. Yes, so, no ifs, ands, or buts.
Right.
So I like this one. If you collect it, protect it. There you go. Easy peasy.
Yeah.
You want to keep it safe from inappropriate and unauthorized access. Inappropriate means if I don't have a business job reason to be looking at this information, I shouldn't be doing it. And unauthorized is don't let the hacker in. But if you collect it, protect it. So you can count on us starting to use it. If you collect it, protect it. Be open and honest about how you collect, use, and share consumers' personal information. Well, healthcare has the Notice of Privacy Practices, and it's supposed to say all of that. But do people know what's in them?
Right.
No.
Yeah.
Build trust by doing what you say you will do. This is the one that drives me crazy. The NPP says I'm going to do all these things. But then HIPAA schmippa.
It's true. And we see the same thing with business associates. They'll sign that business associate agreement.
Yeah, I got a stack of them over here.
Then they don't do jack squat they said they're going to do.
Right. They don't even know what it says they're going to do.
Or they don't understand it.
The first question on our vetting questionnaire says, do you understand you're subject to HIPAA? Security rule, blah, 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 and it points to the law. And I've had people who sign the BAA that says, I understand this is what I'm doing. And then on the vetting thing, they say, not applicable.
Well,
actually had it happen.
Well, when if I walk in, the first thing I want to ask you is, where's your most recent risk analysis? And more times than not, I am, somebody's looking at me going, we have our HIPAA policies and procedures. Okay, great. Where's your most recent risk analysis? That's step one. You can't skip around. If you don't have that, I know everything else you've got is pointless and worthless for me.
Yeah, and your risk analysis isn't a list of the things that you have in your policies and procedures manual that you've confirmed you have the policies and procedures on. Yeah. Reference is it a gap analysis or a risk analysis? And, we've done several episodes on doing a proper risk analysis, and people still don't get it. You try to figure out everything that can go wrong, and then you figure out which ones are you going to really worry about, and then how are you going to worry about them, and how are you doing with that? Mm-hmm. There you go. That's a risk analysis. It's not, hey, everybody sit down and write down a few things and we're done.
Yep.
So anyway, there is, as I mentioned, this is about everything. So it has some great information about consumers and parents and teenagers and businesses and connected homes and social media and how to help families navigate the digital world. They're really trying to put this information out there. And one of the sections in their guide that they have for the champions, which we're trying to be by doing this, is that they do talk about medical records privacy. And it includes stuff, a lot of things about breaches and, an explanation, because it's trying to talk about it from a non-healthcare specific perspective. And they make a point that I thought was really interesting in being able to say it, is this data can be immensely valuable to cyber criminals and so intensely personal that patients would be deeply impacted if it was lost or stolen. I mean, that's the real reason we have it, right? This is the real reason we have HIPAA privacy and security.
Yeah.
Is it's immensely valuable to cyber criminals and intensely personal, that you could deeply impact the individual. So Data Privacy Day is just continuing to bring home that gets to the heart of our tagline. HIPAA's not about compliance. It's about patient care.
True.
That's a fact, Jack.
I don't know who come up with that. Brilliant.
Again, I will give you credit for that. See, if it's a short, quick little thing, he's in.
I'm in.
But if I told you had to post the podcast this week, you'd say,
I don't feel good.
Clue.
I don't feel good. Starting to come down.
I know. I realized before I had surgery, I had to post one because I would still be on meds, and I knew you didn't know how. So
I'm more the visionary.
So in the guide, they did have a lot of bullet points, and I pulled a few out that I thought were pretty interesting. That this is trying to educate everybody about the privacy requirements, and they had an entire page dedicated to medical privacy. Clearly, there's a reason. And of several of bullets, these were the three that I found most interesting and ones that I felt were important to reiterate to those of us that are in healthcare. And in the U.S. alone, healthcare data breaches occur at a rate of more than one a day.
Wow.
More than one a day, costing an average of $408 per record, which we've talked about in the Poneman study. But more than one in a day. That alone matters. Mm-hmm. And they're only looking at the big breaches. They're not looking at the little ones. There's probably thousands per day if you get the one-off where it was one patient where somebody did something they weren't supposed to.
Yeah. Not to mention how many go unreported.
Right. Yeah. So it's happening that often. So those of you who think you have it under control, clearly there's a bigger problem here that we need to review. Mm-hmm. And then another one is under HIPAA, it's illegal for healthcare providers to share patients' treatment information. How about that? Let's just focus on that. It's illegal for healthcare providers to share your treatment information, outside the confines of what's allowed under HIPAA. But then they add more than 30,000 reports regarding privacy violations are received each year. So clearly, there has to be thousands per day to get over 30,000 a year.
Yep. Criminals.
And then the final piece, insiders are also remaining a constant challenge for healthcare, accounting for 96 incidents or 41% of data breaches this year so far at the time that they had done this.
Mm-hmm.
So more than 1.17 million patient records breached by insider error or wrongdoing.
Yep. So these
are numbers that I, as a patient, read, and I am really worried about my data.
Yeah, because if you want, there you go. You got it right there. If you want to make a 41% difference within your privacy and security program, then address the people that you have working for you.
Yeah. So, and we've talked about insider issues repeatedly, and we cannot stress enough just how important it is. So the Data Privacy Day is a great opportunity. If we mentioned this when we were talking about National Cybersecurity Awareness Month, that you could, ramp up and do this. And then, I was busy having surgery and didn't get it in time. But to remind you,
no
however,
no excuse.
Okay. But if you hear this in time, on LinkedIn Live, there is an official Privacy Day event on Monday. I think it starts at noon, and we'll have the link at staysafeonline.org. They have all the information, but LinkedIn Live is hosting several speakers talking about these privacy issues. So use this as an opportunity to promote these kinds of things in your office, even if you have to set your own Privacy Day. The tools are available to us, and there are a growing number of tools that are available out there.
Mm-hmm.
So we definitely are getting more information to disseminate that is freely available. But even then, people will say, well, I don't have any, I can't afford this. It's free.
I can't afford it.
It's free. It's free. Well, I don't have time to do this. Okay. You've got to do these things. So there you go. There is news you can use, and go learn about National Data Privacy Day and how you can use some of the information they have available to promote privacy awareness in your organization, maybe cut down some of those insider issues.
Yeah, absolutely. It goes back to what we're talking about. You want to develop a culture within your business. You don't know how to do it. These are the ways to do it. This is exactly what we're talking about. They're giving you step-by-step information. They're giving you, things you can print out or posters, and there's all types of stuff on there. So you can start creating that culture of privacy and security within your business.
If you collect it, protect it.
Yeah. That's easy to remember, right?
Yeah.
So I like it. All right, folks. Yeah. That is our podcast for today. Hope you enjoyed it. Remember to follow us and share us out on your favorite social media site. Rate us on our podcasting app. We need your help to spread the word. Don't forget, hey, if you want to be at the start of our podcast and intro in the podcast, go to helpmewithhippa.com, scroll down the page, and you can leave a voicemail right there with that information. Appreciate you listening. And as always, don't forget that HIPAA is not about compliance. It's about patient care.
You've been listening to the Help Me with HIPAA podcast, hosted by Donna Grindle and David Sims. The show created to help you with HIPAA. For more information or to ask us a question, visit our website at helpmewithhipaa.com. Neither Donna Grindle or David Sims are attorneys, and they do not offer binding legal advice concerning regulatory compliance. The information in this podcast should not be relied upon or construed as legal advice in any way. Consult your attorney for legal advice concerning compliance with HIPAA regulations.